Welcome to Mythic Albion, a journey through Britain's myths, legends, and sacred landscapes. I'm your host Tom, and today we look at an old location, one that lies at the heart of the old empire. They say 1,000 years can change a land, but some places remember, and some stones hold their stories tight, like bones under the skin of the earth. And then there are those that whisper them back. Along the banks of the River Thames, rising cold and pale in the morning dew, stands the Tower of London. This fortress was founded shortly after the Norman conquest of 1066. The central keep, what we know of today as the White Tower, was built by William the Conqueror around 1078 using limestone from Caen, Normandy. Initially to assert Norman power over London, it has served as a royal palace, an infamous prison, an arsenal, the royal mint, a menagerie and a public records office. A fortress of kings, a prison to traitors, a tomb of secrets, and for many, that place they never truly left. Rising over the Thames like a stone giant, the Tower of London has watched 1,000 years of kings and queens rise and fall. Its walls have seen betrayal, imprisonment, coronations, and death. And where stories of death settle, legends begin to breathe. For centuries, this structure has held immense significance. Controlling the tower meant control of the country. Since the 15th century, the tower has safeguarded the crown jewels and has been home to the various ravens which legend states can never leave. There is also a darker history, that of prisoners, executions, and the ghostly sightings of those who are not yet ready to leave. The Raven's Omen. The story is most closely linked to King Charles II. During the reign of the king in 1660 to 1685, it was said that the king's royal astronomer complained about the ravens interfering with his work. A decision to remove the ravens was reversed by Charles himself, who had been warned of a great terrible disaster should the birds leave. Some scholars trace this myth back to Celtic folklore. The Welsh word for raven is Bran, and Bran the Blessed was a mythical king whose head was said to be buried on the site of the White Tower as a talisman to protect Britain, and the ravens have been seen as magical guardians ever since. Anne Boleyn's Last Walk. On the 2nd of May 1536, Anne Boleyn, Queen and wife to Henry VIII, was arrested and taken to the Tower of London on the grounds of treason, adultery and incest. Many viewed the charges as unconvincing. She was convicted on the 15th of May, and on the 19th of May, Anne Boleyn, Queen of England, takes her last walk across Tower Green. Adorned in a grey damask gown trimmed with ermine with a crimson kirtle beneath. Witnesses that day described their queen as never looking so beautiful. Despite the circumstances, she remained dignified and with poise addressed her subjects. Good Christian people, I have come here not to preach a sermon. I have come here to die. I pray God save the king and send him long to reign over you. As she knelt, awaiting judgment, she recounted the words, "To Lord Jesus I commend my soul. Lord Jesus received my soul. To Lord Jesus I commend my soul. Lord Jesus received my soul. To Lord Jesus I commend my soul. Lord Jesus receive my soul." Even the ravens of the tower sat silent on the walls, gazing eerily at this tragic scene, a queen about to die. A French swordsman brought from Calais carried out the beheading swiftly and cleanly, considered a mercy compared to the axe. But mercy is not the same as peace. Her spirit has been seen gliding through the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, Tower Green or the Queen's house, sometimes whole in a white or dark gown with ermine-trimmed mantle, sometimes whole, but often seen carrying her stolen head from her shoulders. The Princes in the Tower. In 1483, two boys arrive at the Tower, gentle princes, heirs to the throne, innocent. Edward V, aged 12, and Richard of Shrewsbury, aged 9, sons of King Edward IV, and when their father's sudden death in 1483, they were brought to the Tower, for safety they were told, until Edward's coronation. Their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucestershire, was named Lord Protector during Edward's minority. "Do you think Uncle Richard will visit today?" inquired a soft and worried Edward. "He promised he would," replied the younger brother. But Richard didn't visit that day, and slowly the visit stopped altogether. Their rooms, once traditional and ornate, grew smaller. The guards changed, and their future darkened, and then silence. Before the coronation could take place, Parliament had declared the boys illegitimate under the Titulus Regius Act, and the Lord Protector then became King Richard III on the 6th of July 1483. The young princes were never seen alive again. Their fate remains unknown, though many theories exist, the most popular one being Richard III ordering their deaths to secure his throne. Some accounts claim Sir James Tyrrell confessed in 1502 of smothering the boys, though this is disputed. In 1674, nearly 200 years later, workmen at the Tower found two small skeletons under a staircase. They were interred in Westminster Abbey by Charles II. Modern calls for DNA testing have been resisted by the Abbey to this day. Some say their ghosts still linger, unable to leave. Pale figures in nightshirts, hand in hand, wandering the battlements. Sometimes the faint sound of children's laughter can be heard, laughter that soon turns to an echoing sob. The Restless of the Tower. Anne Boleyn and the two young princes are not the only ghosts said to walk the grounds. What of Lady Arbella Stuart, England's lost queen? Born in 1575, she was the great-great-granddaughter of Henry VII, making her a strong claimant to the throne after Elizabeth I. By royal blood, she was a political pawn and secretly married to William Seymour in 1610 without King James' consent. Seen as treason, both are arrested. Seymour is imprisoned in the moment and Arbella later. Enduring harsh confinement at the Tower, her health and mental state likely deteriorated, dying sometime in September 1615, likely of starvation. She continues to haunt the Queen's house, the place where she died and considered the most haunted part of the Tower complex. Residents and guests report sudden, even violent pushes, icy chills running down their backs with feelings of dread and morose in the Lennox room. Some women have fled in terror, feeling as if they were being strangled. It is said by witnesses that they sensed the grief of the silent lady of the Tower rather than any visual cues, an unseen force heavy with despair. Then there is Sir Walter Raleigh, who spent 3 stints in the Tower. First by Elizabeth I in 1592 for secretly marrying Elizabeth Throckmorton. Then he spent 16 years between 1603 and 1616 under James I, accused of involvement to remove the king and replace him with Arbella Stuart. After a failed expedition to South America, Raleigh was returned to the Tower again in 1618, where he was executed outside of Westminster. Raleigh faced his death with composure and admirable wit. When shown the axe, he said, "This is a sharp medicine, but it is a physician for all diseases," running his finger along the blade. Raleigh's ghost is said to wander the bloody Tower, pacing in despair. Some describe him chained and headless, while others report a shadowy figure gazing across the Thames. Favoured by Elizabeth I and ruined under James I, and executed despite his fame, His long imprisonment and unfulfilled dreams of adventure mark him as a classic restless spirit in British folklore. The Curse of the Koh-i-Noor. There was once a diamond born in fire and earth, carved in the heart of India's ancient mines, glittering on the forehead of emperors for centuries, bearing silent witness to ambition and betrayal. In Delhi, during the 14th century, a prophecy was uttered. He who owns this stone will rule the world, but know all its misfortunes. Only God or a woman may wear it without doom. Powerful rulers all ignored the warning. The diamond was called the Koh-i-Noor. When the Persian army turned the streets red with blood in Delhi, Nadir Shah seized the jewel. His empire crumbled soon after. Some time after that, it fell into the hands of Shah Sujah, who clutched it like a talisman. Betrayal saw him end his days in a dungeon. Maharaja Ranjit Singh of the Sikh Empire vowed it would adorn a temple idol upon his death. Instead, the British came. By 1849, the diamond crossed the oceans under the shroud of imperial triumph and whispered dread. Recut in London, its fiery heart diminished, yet its curse remained intact. Queen Victoria, mindful of the prophecy, decreed, "Let no man of Britain wear this stone." And so the Koh-i-Noor rests in the crown of queens, silent, glittering, and waiting. The Tower of London has stood for nearly a millennium, bearing witness to war, betrayal, coronation, imprisonment, and executions. A fortress made from the bones of English history, and that is exactly what happened after the Norman conquests. The White Tower was completed in 1078 under the supervision of Gundulf, Bishop of Rochester. Phase 2 took place between 1189 and 1216 under Richard I. The tower size was doubled, a bell tower and a wardrobe tower was added. A moat was dug and filled in from the Thames. Outer walls strengthened for even more improved defences. Phase 3 between 1216 to 1272 under Henry III saw the inner ward of 13 towers constructed, the curtain walls. The original keep was coated in white lime, hence the name, the White Tower. Royal apartments were added, turning the fortress into a palace. St John's Chapel was constructed soon after. Phase 4 under Edward I saw the creation of the outer ward and a second moat. There was also the addition of the Traitor's Gate, Beauchamp Tower and Lion Tower. That is almost continual works taking place for around 120 years. There were later changes made during the 14th and 15th centuries, adding towers for artillery, attempts to modernise defences that were lagging rapidly behind growing gunpowder technology. By the 19th century, Anthony Salvin and John Taylor aimed to restore the tower to a more medieval look, these works shaping much of the modern appearance as it is known today. One of the most popular tourist attractions within London, but when the crowds go home, the gates are locked and the last light fades along the Thames. Stone settles into stone and the night can finally exhale. But even in its silence, we know the tower is never truly empty. Is it haunted? Yes. Perhaps the most haunted location within the British Isles. But perhaps not only by ghosts. Kings and queens once ruled here. Some were prisoners, counting their last hours. And ghosts seem to linger, to persist where memories refuse to fade. Perhaps it isn't just the dead who haunt the tower. There is the weight of history itself to consider, the choices made within those walls, of power seized and voices silenced. A fortress is more than just brick and mortar. It is also what was done within it, what was lost and what was taken. Look at the ravens. Look at the cursed jewel. Is there hidden power there, protecting the kingdom? But maybe the truth is simpler. The ravens stay because they know this place remembers. The jewel becomes a sort of paradoxical ward of protection until it is worn by a man again. But what of the ghosts? Are they doomed to be trapped within the tower until it falls, or if it ever does fall? The tower is a mirror, reflecting the best and worst of Britain. A story of ambition, cruelty, loyalty, fear and hope. A place where myth and history walk the same halls, and sometimes you cannot tell them apart. So, as we now leave the tower behind tonight, remember this. Legends aren't born in the light, they're born in places like this, where the past still breathes, where even silence cannot hold secrets. Stories in the stones, if you know how to listen. If you like today's episode, feel free to leave a review. It helps others find their way out of the dark dungeon corridors. And so we leave the tower behind, its ghosts settling back into the shadows, its ravens watching from their perches as the Thames glides past below, dark, patient, eternal. It can be easy to forget, standing among the tower's cold walls, that London has always been shaped by water. A river that carried kings, prisoners, armies and the plague. A river that fed the city. For beneath every legend carved into stone, there lies another born of water, older, wilder. Stories of mysterious creatures beneath still ponds, hiding in the black mirrors of lake, curling around the coastline. Creatures that pull, that tempt, that drown. Next time we leave the battlements and dive into the depths, from shape-shifting kelpies of the Scottish lochs to the long-fingered grindelows of marshes and mires, to the sirens who promise beauty but deliver ruin. Join me next time beneath the surface, and until then, be wary of that 100-year whale behind the white limestone walls.